The Covina Santa Massacre. On December 24, 2008, families across Covina, California prepared for a quiet Christmas Eve, unaware that one home would soon become the center of a devastating tragedy. Inside the Ortega family house, relatives gathered around the tree, sharing food and exchanging early gifts. The mood was warm and familiar. Aunts chatted in the kitchen. Children played in the living room. It was the kind of holiday scene that seemed untouchable by anything dark or violent. Several blocks away, however, a man wearing a red Santa suit sat alone in his car. His name was Bruce Jeffrey Pardo, and he had spent the past months in a bitter divorce from his ex-wife, Sylvia. What no one at the gathering knew was that he had been planning something horrific. As the evening settled in, a soft knock came at the front door of the Ortega home. The family assumed it was a neighbor or a late guest. When the door opened, the sight of Santa standing outside sparked excitement. Some of the children even ran toward him, thinking he was there to hand out gifts. Pardo stepped inside quietly. He did not speak. There was no smile, no greeting, only the sound of him placing a large box down on the carpet. At first, it just looked like Christmas equipment, maybe decorations or presents. Then he slowly reached into his suit. The moment the first gunshot echoed through the living room, the celebration collapsed into chaos. The family scrambled for cover, but the rooms were small and crowded. Pardo fired repeatedly, moving with disturbing calm from one area of the house to another. Screams filled the narrow hallways as relatives tried to shield children or find a back exit. When the shooting stopped, smoke began pouring from the box he had carried. The device inside was not a present. It was a homemade flamethrower. As flames spread through the furniture and walls, heat built rapidly, trapping those who were wounded and blocking escape routes. The house was engulfed in minutes. Fire crews later said the temperatures surpassed 1,000 degrees. Neighbors could only watch as the home collapsed into burning debris. By the time investigators searched the ruins, 9 people had lost their lives. Pardo had already fled the scene and would not live to face trial. He ended his own life during the escape. One family never recovered from that Christmas Eve. The Dover Christmas Killings. On December 22, 1987, a quiet rural property near Dover, Arkansas held a secret that would only unravel after Christmas. The man living there, Ronald Gene Simmons, had long isolated his family from the outside world. Neighbors rarely saw the children. Relatives felt unwelcome visiting. Even coworkers avoided discussing anything personal with him. During the days leading to Christmas, Simmons began acting with unsettling precision. He moved slowly through the house, saying little, watching his family with an expression that revealed nothing. Inside the cramped rooms of the property, holiday decorations were minimal. There was no tree, no music, no celebrations. Simmons had decided that this Christmas would be the last his family would ever experience. On the morning of December 22nd, he approached his wife and eldest son under the pretense of needing help. Moments later, he killed them both. He continued through the house, taking the lives of his younger children one by one. The property fell silent, but Simmons remained calm. Over the next days, relatives arrived to visit for the holidays. None of them suspected danger. They stepped through the front door expecting warm greetings, unaware of what had already happened inside. Simmons greeted each new arrival with the same cold routine. He guided them toward a back area of the house and murdered them in the same methodical way. By December 28th, 14 members of his own family were dead. When he finally left the house, he was not done. He drove to the town of Russellville and walked into his former workplace. Without warning, he shot and killed 2 more people. Others were wounded as he continued through the building until he eventually surrendered without resistance. His crimes shocked the entire country. With 16 lives taken, it became the worst family massacre in United States history. The quiet rural property in Arkansas never felt the same again. The Santa Claus Bank robbery shootout. On December 23, 1927, the small town of Cisco, Texas bustled with holiday excitement. Downtown shops were full. Children stared at toys through display windows. And when a figure dressed as Santa Claus appeared on the sidewalk, people naturally gravitated toward him. No one suspected that the man beneath the red suit, Marshall Ratliff, had come to commit one of the most chaotic crimes the state had ever seen. Ratliff walked into the First National Bank as though he were spreading Christmas cheer. Behind him, his accomplices followed. The moment he reached the counter, the atmosphere changed. Weapons came out. Shouting filled the room. Customers hit the floor as the robbery began. Ratliff believed the Santa disguise would make escape easier, but he underestimated the town's fierce sense of vigilante justice. As the gang left the bank, armed citizens surrounded the building. Gunfire erupted instantly. Windows shattered. Horses panicked. People hid behind barrels and wagons while bullets tore through the street. The robbers tried to escape in a stolen car, but the situation unraveled quickly. A prolonged chase followed, ending in another exchange of gunfire outside town limits. By the time the violence ended, several people had been killed, including law enforcement officers and later 2 members of the gang who died from sustained injuries. The Santa costume, once a symbol of harmless festivity, became a disturbing reminder of the bloodshed. For Cisco, Christmas that year was forever marked by gunsmoke and fear. The Jaffa Santa stabbing. On January 6, 2012, the narrow streets of Jaffa filled with the sound of drums and chanting as the Orthodox Christmas procession moved through the historic district. Families lined the sidewalks. Priests carried ceremonial crosses. Children watched with anticipation. At the front of the procession walked Gabriel Caddis, a respected leader of the Orthodox Christian community. He greeted people warmly, unaware that someone in the crowd had come with a deadly intention. Among the spectators stood a man in a Santa costume, blending into the festive atmosphere. The outfit did not draw attention. Many people wore holiday accessories, and it was common for performers to dress up during the event. As the parade slowed near a busy intersection, Caddis moved closer to the crowd, shaking hands and offering blessings. Then the Santa figure stepped forward. Witnesses later said the motion was so fast they barely understood what had happened. The man reached into his sleeve and lunged toward Caddis. A blade flashed in the sunlight, striking him in the back. Chaos erupted instantly. People screamed and pushed back. Members of the procession tried to grab the attacker, but he disappeared into the panicked crowd before anyone could stop him. Caddis collapsed on the pavement as those around him struggled to keep the procession from further panic. He was rushed to a hospital but died shortly afterward. Investigators later revealed that the attack stemmed from internal disputes over power and influence within the community. The Santa costume had simply been a way to move unnoticed until the moment of violence. Years later, when Caddis's widow was murdered under mysterious circumstances, the community felt the wound reopen, as though the shadow of that Santa-clad attacker had never fully lifted. Jaffa carried the weight of that Christmas far longer than anyone wished. The Kanash Dead Meraz killing. On January 6th, near the Orthodox Christmas celebration in the Russian town of Kanash, a small grocery shop prepared for the usual evening rush. The owner, a former police officer, restocked shelves while chatting with customers. Outside, the sidewalks were covered in snow and decorated with winter lights. When a man dressed as Dead Meraz, known in English as Grandfather Frost, walked inside, no one felt alarmed. Costumes were common during the season. The shop owner recognized the visitor immediately. The 2 men had known each other for years, though their relationship had grown tense. The costumed man asked for a photo, saying he wanted a fun holiday memory. The owner agreed, unaware of the danger approaching. He stood beside the bearded figure as a phone was lifted, the moment captured in a cheerful snapshot that would later become grim evidence. Before the owner could step back, the man reached beneath his coat and pulled out a handgun. The atmosphere froze. Customers ducked behind freezers as the attacker aimed. A single shot echoed across the aisles. The owner fell instantly. The costumed shooter fled into the snowy street before authorities arrived. Investigators later uncovered a bitter financial dispute between the 2 men. The disguise had not been worn to spread joy. It had been chosen to conceal his identity until the moment he pulled the trigger. A simple neighborhood shop lost its owner on a night meant for peace. The Grapevine Santa Massacre. On December 25, 2011, the Yazdanpana family gathered in a modest apartment in Grapevine, Texas to celebrate Christmas morning. Children sorted through piles of wrapping paper, and adults shared breakfast around a crowded table. The atmosphere was warm and familiar. Although the parents of the children had separated months earlier, the holiday brought everyone together again. No one expected a visitor. Shortly after the presents were opened, a man dressed in a Santa suit entered the room. It was Aziz Yazdanpana, the estranged husband and father. At first, the costume made the children laugh. They believed he had come in peace, perhaps wanting to rekindle some sense of family for Christmas. His face stayed hidden behind the white beard, and he spoke only a few words. The adults sensed tension but did not want to ruin the morning. Moments later, Yazdanpana reached inside the suit and pulled out a handgun. Shock swept through the apartment. People tried to stand, but there was nowhere to run in the small living room. He fired at his wife and then at his children. The room filled with screams and overturned furniture. Within seconds, several members of the family were wounded. The violence continued until every intended target had been struck. When the shooting stopped, Yazdampana turned the weapon on himself. Police arrived after receiving a silent 911 call traced to a phone lying near the fallen bodies. They found 7 family members dead between the Christmas tree, the breakfast plates, and the remnants of the morning celebration. Grapevine would always remember the day when Christmas joy turned to sudden devastation,